Good afternoon. Welcome everyone who joined us. Media Center Ukraine Ukrinform continues its work. It's 232nd day of our fight for our freedom and independence. We will now discuss the situation in Luhansk. We have Serhii Haidai with us. He's the head of Luhansk Oblast Military Administration. Serhii, welcome. Good afternoon. Serhii, what is the current situation and what we can say today about the occupied Luhansk Oblast? And if you can mention them, what are the towns that already have been brought back under the flag of Ukraine? We can officially mention the 7 deoccupied places. The HQ has already published information about them. The operation on the occupation and defense is continuing, but we will not be specifying as of right now until the HQ publishes the new information so that we don't harm our armed forces. But I can say that in those towns and villages that were deoccupied, there are very few people, but there are people there. There are people living in Luhansk Oblast, and for some time they were living under occupation. And it is also difficult there because there is no free access to the territory of these places. The occupants are shelling them. Some of the villages are being destroyed entirely by artillery shelling with tanks and also with systems of fire. As soon as the military allow us, it will not be 100% safe, but when at least the shelling is decreased, we will go there to see people, to bring them the medication and the humanitarian aid and everything that they need. Serhii, please tell us, there is no opportunity to provide medical aid, humanitarian aid to people there. Is it correct? Well, medical aid can be provided by the military medics, and they're doing this because they're medical professionals. When it comes to stable humanitarian aid and healthcare from volunteers or from Oblast administration, no, we cannot be talking about this right now because this morning we were supposed to go to certain villages on microbuses with humanitarian aid, warm clothes, medication that we have prepared, and with stoves that we have prepared, but we got a phone call from the military who stopped us from this trip because the shelling is very heavy. Serhii, on leaving the occupied territories, we see from the other regions that the occupants have stopped any kind of opportunity for our citizens to move to Ukraine-controlled territories. Is it the same in Luhansk Oblast? Women and children, maybe they had it a little bit easier, but now this process is also rather complicated. As far as I understand, that the occupants just need civilians. They need them to stay in towns and villages so that they would be this live shield for their military. Serhii, is the mobilization, the so-called mobilization, still happening in the occupied territories? In the occupied territories, they're bringing their mobilized people from the Russian Federation's freshly so-called mobilized civilians, and also people mobilized from penitentiary institutions, and there is quite a lot of them. If we discuss the humanitarian situation in the occupied part of the oblast, we understand that you are in touch with the citizens that had to remain there. What is the current situation? Well, it is different again. One side of the oblast is when the territory is occupied, but the active combat didn't happen there. It is more rural. It is a little bit easier for people there because they have private households. They have some vegetables they grow there and some animals. There's water in the wells. It is much easier there. there's way to provide heat, but where there was active combat, there were 3 biggest cities in Luhansk Oblast: Rubizhne, Severodonetsk, and Lysychansk. These cities are seriously damaged. All the critical infrastructure has been destroyed. There are problems with water supply and gas supply, and before the heating season, these towns cannot be prepared. So we will be asking the local citizens after the occupation to spend the winter under more normal conditions, somewhere more in the back front, in other places of Ukraine. During the so-called carrying out of the so-called referendums in the temporarily occupied territories, we saw that our citizens did not have an opportunity to leave even through the territory of the Russian Federation. They were sent back. Is the situation different now? Do people have the opportunity at least to leave through the territory of the occupant country? During the so-called referendums, several towns were blocked. People could not leave their town or their village. And speaking of the situation right now, theoretically, people can leave unless they're male. Men are sent back immediately, or their documents are checked very meticulously, because maybe there is some emergency and permissions for them to leave. But in general, it is very difficult for civilians to leave. There are 2 ways to do it now: through Zaporizhia, and also a very long way, 3 days or even more, through the occupant country, and then to the Baltic countries, and further going back either to Europe or to Ukraine. Dear colleagues, your questions. Good afternoon, Ukrinform. Olga Korostolova, please tell us, are there our administrative centers or pension funds in Luhansk, in Ukraine-controlled territories? And also, is there an opportunity for them to work there? Do people need them there? Thank you for your question. I'll start from the end. There is need. There's great need for it. But to open administrative services centers, we cannot do it now. But we have prepared for this. When we enter the deoccupied territories, we're only waiting for the permission from the military. As soon as we're allowed to enter a certain territory, to a certain locality where safety is more or less acceptable to work at least several hours a day, we'll be entering there with mobile administrative service centers, so mobile so far, with Ukrainian post. We're in contact with Igor Smilyansky, the head of Ukrainian post. It will work as mobile centers. The further the frontline moves, the further we move the mobile post, mobile banks, mobile administrative service centers, and in the territory that will be completely safe, we will be installing centers for administrative services on permanent basis with permanent employees. Any more questions? Yes, I have another question. On social networks, they say that while local men are being forcefully mobilized in Luhansk Oblast, at the same time, there is a great number of occupants from Siberia, from Yakutia, and from those parts of Russia. I'm talking about the Golden Million. So they're planning to destroy our local population and to bring in their people. Do you have such information? Can you confirm this or disprove this? We are observing this not for the first time, that Kremlin regime is trying to destroy not only Ukrainians, but also their minorities. So mobilization is total, it's not partial, it's not selective. Indeed, men in Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast in the occupied territories are all taken, all mobilized, regardless of whether they're healthy or not, where there are any limitations on military service, whether they have many children, everybody is taken and immediately put to the front line. And indeed, from entire Russia, all freshly mobilized men are taken there, primarily the representatives of ethnic minorities. And this is why they are called minorities, because there are not many of them. We have the information also, it's in open access, that in some villages and towns of Buryatia, there are no men at all, not a single man. So they came and took everyone. And we're now observing in the territory of the occupied Luhansk how they are in our Svatova direction fighting there. Serhii, we understand that there is now another challenge for you, and this is helping those people who were evacuated from the territory of Luhansk, who made the decision, thank God, to leave there. And were you successful in supplying those people with the things they need primarily? Are they placed somewhere? Because winter is coming soon and it will be a great challenge for you. I wouldn't say that 100% of people are satisfied and are happy about where they are, because we're talking about more than 300,000 people. But we opened almost in every oblast our humanitarian centers, that they are helping people from Luhansk Oblast who became IDPs. And we launched in a Telegram channel a chatbot that 24/7 collects information so that this information could be quickly analyzed and that we could react. There are certain, of course, mistakes and problems with the system. There's a human factor. So we created this chatbot to help everyone, every person from Luhansk Oblast who left and who needs our help. Probably for technical reasons, sometimes some people have not received this help, but we are trying to cover all the issues and all the people. Thank you, Serhii, for finding the time and joining our broadcast. We had Serhii Haidai with us. He's the head of Luhansk Oblast Military Administration. Dear colleagues, in 10 minutes, we will have a connection with Sumy Oblast. We will talk to Dmitro Zhivitsky, the head of Sumy Oblast, and we will find out about the situation there. Stay with us. We believe in the Ukrainian armed forces and we work for our victory. Thank you.